right, guys, we're going to go with our next question in the bundle. Lauren, you have options. Which one do you want to pick?
Let's go OPP.
OPP.
Make a little line down our pyramid here.
You're all down with OPP, other people's pricing. So how should you factor in other people's pricing, right? I'm talking about that direct competitor, the apples to apples competitor. How do you factor it into your pricing? Are we talking, should you always be copying? Should you do the old fashioned competitor plus 10%, right? That you've seen out there? How do you factor in other people's pricing, competitor pricing when you're thinking about your own model? Lauren, you probably see this across your companies all the time.
Yes. And I think it's often a maturity piece for trying to move people out of. And I wish I remember where I heard it, kind of a funny metaphor for competitive pricing, which is, this is like stalking your ex on social media. Like, you can look, but you shouldn't let it dictate your life. And I think that kind of sums up competitive pricing. I think if you are making every decision that you are doing on pricing based on what your competitors are doing, you're probably behind. And that's because that's super reactive. It also takes time to make changes. So your competitors are always going to be one step ahead of you. But competitive pricing should be a data point in that broader book of things that we're looking at when we're thinking about pricing changes. And where I often see our companies start on competitive pricing is obviously they're looking at price points and maybe the structure and comparing their models and making sure, hey, maybe we're at least generally in the same line. But I think the biggest opportunity for at least our companies is to look at how our competitors are positioning. How are they communicating certain features on the website? Do they have clearer value statements than us? Because we're often coming from the place of our companies have a superior product or feel they have a superior product in the market, which is great. But if you feel like your product is great, but you're still losing to competitors, that probably means they might be better at what's showing up on the website, or how their sellers are communicating pricing, or how they're handling kind of objections that come up in the sales process. So how can we take inspiration on optimizing those things, optimizing our kind of product marketing presence, and optimizing how we can move our sellers from reactive and kind of maybe defensive if competitive objections come up to proactive value-based selling, really having clear alignment on what our product does and those things that make it different too.
Makes super good sense. I got to get Shawn in here because she just called out stalking your ex on social media, right? They're having a vacation in Hawaii, damn it, right? What are you thinking when it comes to other people's pricing? What do you think what Laura said?
Well, Lauren, not mad at you. I'm just disappointed because you gave him the right answer. I mean, so if you're in a head-to-head competition, and now I'm thinking about this from a size transaction where you are sales, you've got salespeople involved, and this is probably true of transactional where there are not salespeople involved, and you can collect the data. If you're head-to-head with a competitor, and they choose your competitor, and they tell you it's because of price, you and the competitor did a terrible job explaining the value. They did not buy. If they're buying because of costs and not because of value, everyone's done a bad job communicating. If you're constantly losing to your competitor and you're confident that your product has similar or greater value, you are not communicating the value. Your team, your sellers are not communicating value. And I think this is super common based on what I've seen in the space for earlier stage companies, because they're feature pitching, just feature pitch, feature pitch, feature pitch. And features are not value. They are how you get to value. So Lauren is exactly right. You're not doing a good job communicating to the customer about the problems you're going to solve for them and the negative consequences if they don't make a decision today, and the positive business outcomes using that command of message. If the buyer doesn't move on some decision, right? And the bigger you can make that value gap, the easier it is to charge, appropriately or more for your product. Obviously, you got to keep an eye on what the competitor's doing, and people are price sensitive and all of those things. So it's got to be a point in your consideration. But especially if you have a highly differentiated product, I mean, you've got to be able to show the customer that value. And the other thing to think about with the buyer decision on this is, right, cost is not the only consideration, or the price tag is not the only price considered. There's the massive cost of change management a lot of times, right? The commitments to deploy that thing that you have to take into consideration. So in order to build that value case, because you've got your value presentation on one side, then you've got your cost, and then you've got the cost to deploy, you better be able to tip that scale way over. So again, if it comes down to price, it's just a missed opportunity.
That is a missed opportunity, a huge miss. And I think, Lauren, you did wrap it up in a really nice bow in your coverage too. But Shawn, let me ask you this, man. What about this last piece here? I want to really ask you guys, because what if I'm launching something new? What if I'm brand new into the marketplace and I don't really have an established identity value prop just yet? Does that give me permission to copy other people's pricing? What do you think? And I'll start with you, Shawn, and then close with Lauren.
Yeah, no, this is easy. I mean, this is the product side of me coming out. So, going and talking to the users about the value that you are delivering, not in the sense of, well, if you had this feature, what would you do with it? It's, what problem are we solving? Hey, how often are you doing this thing? How much does that cost you? What's the revenue implication? And if you can get to revenue implications and ROI implications of your product, that should define your price point. So you can say, well, I'm going to save you $100,000 a year. I'm going to make you $100,000 a year. $50,000 is nothing to accomplish that goal. So that's where the basis should be. And then you look at what competitors are doing if there is something similar out there, and say, okay, now we have to take that into consideration. Are we differentiated from them? Can we have a better value-based conversation? Are they actually a competitor? Or are they just they're just kind of there? So I think that's secondary to what is the value you are delivering.
All the way. Lauren, take us home. What do you think?
I couldn't agree more with what Shawn said. I think it's, what am I solving for in this space, right? Is this someone coming into a market of just old, clunky, outdated tech that, that's all that is really out there and we're kind of the new entrant? In which case, don't copy that old pricing. Like, it's broken. The whole reason you started this is to do something different. If that is the case, though, still copy the goodness of what SaaS companies broadly are doing, right? Don't just look at your competitors. Look at companies that you think are doing the same thing that you're doing in your space in others. Because I think there's a lot of similarities in how companies are pricing. You don't have to recreate the wheel every time, but I think especially when you're new into the market or you're coming out with a new product, being a little more aggressive and walking that back over time to kind of a more standardized state isn't the worst place to take some risks too.
There, very, very well said. And so the way I'm seeing, you don't give people permission to copy other people's pricing. And what I'm hearing from you guys is when you copy other people's pricing, you're also copying other people's products, which is not yours, and you should be differentiated from that, and potentially other people's problems. Maybe they didn't do their due diligence, and you're inheriting that in your own pricing model. So I fully agree with all you guys. You guys brought it today. Let me wrap up today's show because there was too much value all the way around. We have to put a bow on this thing. You guys really dropped a lot of important tips, considerations, things to think about for the SaaS community. And I want to thank you for coming in. We covered just from a data, unbiased, cross-functional criteria for having a real owner of pricing. You warned us about being too cavalier with what you charge around usage and billing, and being careful about attaching your value to something that's a cost center. Doesn't drive a lot of value for the customer. And then lastly, we were just covering a little bit about stalking your competitor and looking at their pricing. And what I heard again, listen, if you're copying their pricing, you already lost. you already lost, right? So I think that's a big one there for everyone to take home. So guys, I want to thank you for bringing the heat. And I got to ask you, would you be willing to come back and share some updates, share some new thoughts?
Heck yes. I mean, we've got plenty more pyramids to get through. And Shawn, it's been great gabbing pricing with you, and obviously always wonderful, Marcos.
Definitely.
No, I'd love having you guys. You guys know how to have fun. So excellent. And from for my team out there, everybody listening today, I want to make sure that you take these lessons back into the office on Monday, try to get 1% better and move away from that guessing and start moving towards growing. Until next time. Shammy, take us away, man. Take us home.
Yes. Want to shout out Shawn and Lauren. Thank you for coming on and dropping some of these, because that's how we do at every session of the bundle. Until next time, y'all. Peace.